Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have Gothikana by RuNyx.
Yay!
Have you ever been an outcast? Well, Corvina Clemm has been her whole life, along with her mother. The people from town never seem to pay her any mind. Being what they think is strange, why would they? One day she receives a letter for an admission to a university that she's never heard of. But this may be the opportunity that she has to change her life and gain some new experiences. Corvina takes the chance and decides it's time for her new life and heads to Verenmore for her new adventure. Little did she know, the devil awaits her visit. With danger at every corner and people disappearing, will Corvina's choice be her downfall or her saving grace from madness?
Damn. Mic drop.
That's why I was like, ooh, I like that. So I know I don't even have to ask this question to you, Rachel, because I already know the answer. But Rachel, what did you think of this book?
I want to know. I want to know. How far into the book did you get before you realized that this was one of the top 10 best books I've ever read in my life?
Um, Probably chapter two.
Listen, I know that you are the one that proposed this book for the podcast, and it's almost like there are no words to describe how insanely I loved and adore this book. I'm so pleasantly surprised. I'm so happy. I feel like I'm a very specific kind of person, and I feel as though I feel like everyone should read this book, but I don't think that everyone would love this book as much as I do. But I'm like, no, everyone on the planet needs to read this book.
All I can say is you're welcome.
No, 10 out of 10. You deserve a prize. I'm gonna bake you cookies and I'm gonna send them to you. And like, I'm gonna buy you a real gold star made with 24 karat gold. No,
Oh,
ma'am, I'm so happy that we read this book. And before we go any further, I want to comment a little bit about the, limited edition, like beautiful copies of books, right? Because you and I talked about this a little bit before, where we were talking about how I'm hesitant to buy the beautiful, gorgeous copies of books because of the fact that, like, 9 times out of 10, right, I see this beautiful, stunning cover. It's like a whatever color, and the sprayed edges just complement it so beautifully. There was a book that I saw, and tell me, people, if you know this book, but it was all white. There was like a cream, like off color, like off white kind of color. And then there was stark scarlet red and like stark scarlet red sprayed edges. And it was in the cover, and it was, oh, so stunning. And I'm not saying that this one was, but 9 times out of 10, it's like book two, book three. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit there and buy like this beautiful, incredible, like gorgeous book and then have it like book one and two be like paperback and then have just this, top tier gorgeous third book. But I'm so glad that we bought the beautiful copy of this book. I would throw $1 billion at this book.
I looked at just the stars on the reviews. I didn't even read the reviews. And I was like, okay, this seems like a safe bet because you know how it goes. You go to choose a book, and so many people are up and down about it, or there's so many positives, and I was really worried. But then I saw just how gorgeous it was, and I was like, I really want it though. And then I read about it, and I was like, I really, really want it. I'm so glad I bugged you. I'm so glad I bugged you. This
Yeah.
book was so good. So
Yeah.
fucking good. Obviously, there's a lot of things that keep me up at night. I can sit there and think of 1,000 things just, in a second to keep me away. But this book, I would gladly read over and over again and make this the reason I don't ever sleep. Gladly. Gladly, I would do it. This book was that good.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, Jen went through the summary and did a beautiful job. But this book is like gothic novel on steroids. It leans so far into every single trope. It's about this beautiful girl goes to this castle that she's in school, and then without giving too much away, like it's that beautiful woman in a white dress who hears music and she walks up the stairs. It's very that like there's forest on the edge of town that no one goes into because of XYZ urban legend. Every single trope that you could possibly think of in like a gothicy type novel. Like if you think something belongs in Dracula, it's in here. If you think something belongs in like Phantom of the Opera, it's in here. If you think something belongs, the author didn't stray away from anything. They very much dug heels in the ground. It was like, this is what this book is going to be. And, it's going to be the best version of that I could possibly do.
When I tell you I could have filled
Yeah.
so many books with so many notes and so many quotes, I'm not even joking. Like, she had everything. She didn't miss a beat. I want to read anything else by her. Anything. I don't care what the hell it is.
Yeah. Instant buy.
Yeah, pretty much. She's like, I would say my top three authors right now. That's how good this book was.
And that's saying something for Jen.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the way she wrote. I thoroughly enjoyed just how much she captivated you. And just, she blew my mind at every fucking turn. And it was so good.
Yeah. So a lot of people think of romance, right? Like the word romance. And they don't think of like to romanticize something or like how something can be romantic in a way that's not like what rose petals and candles and like a candlelit dinner. Like that's what most people think of as romance. There's so much romanticism in this book. It just in the way that the author describes like the most freaking mundane thing, like a door. It's not just a door. It's the most romantic, beautiful, swirly, curly door with beautiful brass handles that you've ever seen in your life. Like every sentence just drips with that European Gothic kind of romanticism. It's stunning.
Very, very much so.
Jen, how did you feel about the plethora of eek moments? The like, because there were like some really sweet, just like,
So honestly, all of it was just like 10 out of 10 for me. I don't even use that like weekly. I put a lot of thought into some of these moments that she was having with Vad, the male main character in here. And for being someone who constantly calls himself the devil, he just made my heart melt. And
Mhm.
it kept happening over and over and over again. And there was one point where he was actually warning her away from him. And he says, "Steer clear of me, little crow. You might be a luring siren, but I'm no ordinary sailor. I'm a mad pirate, and I'm trying to resist your call. If I land on your shores, I will plunder and take everything worth having. Be very careful giving me those eyes." Just, sir, sir, like, can you please not? And he was like that the whole entire book. And the fact that there was so many moments, even just the very moment they met, just going up the stairs and peeking and seeing him playing the piano, it's just like, oh, I know you're there. Like, oh, sir. Oh, yes, I liked.
Yeah. Not to get too personal in a podcast, but I'm going to get a little personal in the podcast. Like, I'm an adult, right? And like most of you people out there are adults. And like through life, we kind of get jaded, right? So like things that we thought when we were younger doesn't really translate to when we get older. Our thoughts change along the way. And like when I was growing up, I was always just this really dark, kind of like romantic kid. And like reading this book was so great because it kind of, at least even for a little bit, kind of brought me back to that 15-year-old kid who would sit there and watch Phantom of the Opera and Ever After, back to back to back, and like would read and reread Dracula, and just some of the things that were slowly chipped away and taken away from me. I got little glimpses of them back when I was reading this book. And I know that that's a weird thing to say, but man, reading's powerful. Even if it can kind of just give a little glimpse of like something that you love or something that you thought was gone.
Absolutely. I hated reading growing up, and it took me a long time to actually really get into it. So I think I appreciate these type of books more now because I never had them growing up. I never had the chance to romanticize life. High school, yeah, I read all those smutty books that, you and I passed back and forth for a while. But there was nothing like this. It was not only smut, but it was passion. It was so much
Yes.
passion. And there's not a lot of that nowadays in books. And yes, there's passionate moments, but you could feel the author's passion going into the book. You could feel the passion between the two characters. You could just, there was so much. And it was just so great to be able to read and kind of be in their little world.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to talk about the characters. And I know that normally we talk a little bit about the characters and then we kind of just pick our favorite one. But I kind of want to go into detail on all of the characters because I thought that they were so well-rounded, so thought out. But before I go into that, I want to know, what did you think about Corvina? What did you think about the main female character?
So at first, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to like her because of the fact that she was very standoffish and just very in her own world. But the fact that she started to open up and blossom very early on in the book, I love that.
Yeah.
But as she continued and got braver, I loved that even more. You could see how much she's changed throughout the entire book. And I think the person that she develops into is someone that I could get along with, very much so.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. At the beginning of the book, she was coming from a rough start. Like all the university in this world is for people who are coming from kind of rougher beginnings, and it helps them earn their associate's degrees. That way, they can either choose to stay in this university or go off to a different college and get their bachelor's. And so she comes from a rough beginning. And because of that, she's very introverted, doesn't talk a lot. She's very self conscious. People think she's weird. And she has very valid reasons for thinking that, because it's not just like this little girl comes from like a good family and then she's just self-conscious. Like she has serious concerns. And at the beginning of the book, she's kind of like she keeps to herself, but if someone confronts her, she does bite back, but not like hard or rough, but there's a little sass in there, you know? And then the more the book went on, she didn't become bitchy by any means, but she also wouldn't just tolerate things. So if someone came up and said something to her, she was kind of like, man, you know?
Yep.
And I love that.
There came a point where she stopped holding back. And I think that had a lot to do with Jade, her roommate. I think when she first met her, and she's immediately that, how you and I had that connection. Like all of a sudden we just start talking and there we go, we're there for each other. Boom. Instant friends. That's basically
Yeah.
all it was. And the fact that she was like, "Oh, let me hug you." And Corvina's like not the type of person that wants to be touched. Understandable. But she allowed Jade to hug her. And then, over time, she just became so much more open with Jade and, talked about her feelings. She didn't really keep too much from her. And I think that really helped her become the character that she needed to be, even with the fact that, Jade had her back against some of the boys that were starting to pick on her, or even one of the girls that had made a comment. So I don't know. It was, I think if it wasn't for Jade, she might not have became the person she was trying to be so quickly.
Yeah. And that just goes to prove that our best friends
Mean everything.
are priceless. Exactly.
So, what did you think of Mr. Deverell?
I loved him.
Stop giggling.
So, okay. So I have a lot of thoughts with Mr. Deverell because obviously there's the he's well written, you know, he's well rounded, he's kind of like he's supposed to be dreamy, but he's supposed to be scary. And there's a note that the author puts in the beginning of the book that is like, no, you're supposed to feel exactly what you're supposed to feel like. You're supposed to be unnerved by him. You're supposed to be uneasy around him. You're supposed to be turned on by him, like all of these things. But it was made very clear that like this is not a great guy, but every red flag I see is like a fucking beacon to me, like a lighthouse guiding me home, right? So I don't think I've ever been so captivated by a book boyfriend, and we obviously we use that term for lack of a better, but every time that I've read a book, it's kind of been like that. Oh yeah, no, this person's attractive. Oh, yep, I see the demons. Yep, he's overcoming them. Yep, he's super strong. Yep, he's whatever. And it's like you can see why this person's attractive. You can see why this person would be like the main male character or whatever. But this one he was, oh my god, he was Eric from Phantom. He was like the Highlander. He was like Eric Draven, all just all rolled into one freaking ball. And I was just very very happy about that. Um yeah. It's like when you read a book and you're like, oh yeah, he's attractive. And then you read this book and you're like, okay, so you just took every fantasy I've ever had about any person in my entire life and then built one character about it. Got it. Cool. Awesome. I don't know how I'm supposed to go back to real life now, but awesome. Cool. Thank you for that.
Totally understand, because there was so much to love about him. There are certain things that I would stand for with a man telling me to do and not to do, or saying to me. And this man could have said anything he wanted to me at that point, because he just like he had me wrapped around his finger and I wasn't even involved. But yeah, no, he was definitely A+.
It brought up a really thought-provoking idea to me specifically. There's a quote and he says, I will never be a good man, but you don't need a good man, do you? You need a devil to fight your demons because you don't want to fight them alone. And I always thought, because people, you think that you want the hero, right? Like you think you want the good guy. You read those books where the person's like, yeah, I'm not a good guy. And you're like, okay, like I see the indulgence. I see that we all know like the attraction to the villain, right? We all get that. But literally, for some reason, the way the author wrote this book, I was like, hold on. I've never in my life, in real life, been like, hold on. Do I really just not care if they're a if they're a hero or not? Like reading this one, I was like, oh, like my potential partner does not. Maybe they just shouldn't be a good person. Maybe that's not what I'm looking for, is what I'm saying.
But at the same time, like, as much as he was not a good person, he was. Because, all right, now hear me out. I'm going to defend him for a moment here. In one part, he goes, you're not alone, not anymore. If something like that happens, you tell me. If you need help, you tell me. If you need comfort, you tell me. Whatever it takes, I get to be the only madness inside of you. You understand? And I about died. All right. That was the fucking sweetest shit he could have said in that moment. And I don't know, I melted. As much as he tried not to be the good guy, he was the good guy. Obviously, not always, but just, I'm defending him a little bit, okay?
You are defending him. I mean, I wasn't coming
Oh
for
no,
him, but
I know.
but there's a difference because not there's spoilers, but he genuinely was not a good guy. I don't think that he was necessarily a bad. He wasn't the villain,
Right.
but like he was not a good guy. He was great for her,
Right.
but there's a difference between like having someone be, the good guy and then the good guy for her.
Well, and that also goes to say, like, not everybody is going to be good. Nobody in this world is that 100% good. There's always something bad about people. Everybody has demons. And he had a lot of demons. Yes. We'll go with that.
Who was your favorite secondary character or third character? Like who was your favorite supporting?
Honestly, I really liked Troy.
Yeah.
He was that kind of like brotherly type of character. And there was just something about him, like, I don't know how to describe it, but he's just someone I would have wanted to be around in that same situation because he made everybody feel comfortable. He was happy all the time. He was mischievous and all out troublemaker, but a good soul. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He was one of my faves.
I loved Erica.
Okay.
She was, listen, I think she's in the book a total of what, 5 times or something. Like she's such a minor character,
Yep.
but she literally pops in, says a witty remark, and goes away. There's one time she was literally like, "Oh, he was looking at you like he wanted to eat you for dinner," and then she just goes away.
Yeah. I think the next one of the next times I remember her vividly was the fact that she was like, "Do you think he would take my advances?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh Lord, yeah."
Yeah.
She was a little spicy one.
She was hilarious. I don't know why those weird little characters that are just like not even comedic relief, like the little mood lighteners, they just get me like every time.
Yeah.
So there was a moment in the book we ask for consent, right? That's the polite thing to do. I've never heard anyone ask for consent the way he asked for consent, and I was not mad at it. He literally just like in the middle of a quote unquote moment goes, "Stop me." And it was like it was an order. It was, it was like he was obviously like telling her like you have the power here, you can stop me if you want to, you can say the word, kind of like if you don't stop me then we're a go, if you don't, if and it was just like stop me. And I've never read any book like that, I've never seen that in the movie, and I was just like, oh,
Yeah, that hit different.
okay.
it
Yeah.
it did hit different. I mean, this whole book hit different.
There is that underlying current, like he really does, like she has control over situations, like
Yep.
if she were to say stop he would stop, or but it was very much like he's in control until she says no, which is a running theme throughout books. But in this book you almost, I want to say like you almost forget that she has control, but in almost every single scene something happens to where it's made very clear that she's in control, or like that, not that she's in control, but that um things would not progress if she didn't want them to,
Right.
like
Yeah.
she had the right and the ability to say no or to change the course of things, um which when you have someone who's so just overwhelming and overpowering and just such a big huge force like that, it's cool to have those little moments where it's like he's not saying is this okay and being kind of like submissive about it, he's just saying listen, balls in your court, stop me.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have stopped him either.
Yep. Nope.
No. That was way too perfect. It's so tough to to say things without giving anything away, because I want to just have a full-on conversation about this book with spoilers and everything, and be like, guys, this is what happens, and this is this is it, and you know, but we don't do that here.
Especially because this book, like, okay, it's like there's a mystery. I mean, there's urban legends, there's secrets, there's so much to unravel. And I feel like we can't even start that. Like, there's a big castle. Of course, there's secrets in the castle. Of course, there is. You know, there's this big hulking like snack of a man who's mysterious. Of course, he's got demons. You know what I mean? And it's like we can't even like broach the topic, because if we do, then it's just all going to unravel. And this book has so much to it that even after the book is done, things are still being revealed. Work that out in your brain.
Yeah, literally, this is like a handle breaking off a faucet if we say too much, and it's just all gonna spiel out. And do yourself the biggest favor and read this book.
So, one of the things that I love most about this book is the fact that it allows people the opportunity to know themselves and trust themselves. You know, you can hear what people say, you can know what you want to believe, but it's a completely different animal when you know and trust yourself, you know, and you make decisions that are right for you or that you feel in your heart are correct. But they also still very much rely on each other, especially the female main character, especially the main male character. You know, they're so dependent upon one another, but it's not because they need each other, it's because they want each other, if that makes sense. Like, all of their actions are done because that's what they think is correct, but it's also very much like they're allowed to be dependent but also independent.
I mean, there's even a part where he sits there and asks her, "Do you trust me?" And she
Listen here,
start
Aladdin. I'm just kidding.
well, she starts like, "Okay, I trust him with this, I trust him with that, but do I trust him with my life?"
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me hard, because it's like there's a lot of people that I trust, but will I trust them with my life is like one of the biggest questions. And obviously, like you, I trust you with my life, but if I had to put it in perspective, it's like my life doesn't even matter as much as my kid's life. So if I was to tell someone I trust my kid's life in your hands, that says a whole fucking lot about your character. That says a whole lot about how much I trust you. And in turn, I do trust you with my life because she is my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the fact that she was prepared to possibly say no, it was so powerful that she had that moment where she sat there and she weighed her options, and she didn't know which way she was going to go. But as you said, they were so dependent on each other, she ended up saying okay. She was still weary about her decision, but
Mm-hmm. Well, you can make a decision, like you can make a choice. You can trust yourself to make the right choice, but still be iffy about it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're
oh
about to
yeah.
jump out of an airplane with a parachute strapped on your back, you might you might have conviction and jump, but you're still like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of apprehension, but the fact that she went full force, it made me respect her character so much more, that she was able to open herself up like that and jump with both feet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. As for favorite quotes, I know that you and I have both kind of peppered in some favorite quotes. There's one that I loved because it kind of encapsulates just the way the writing was throughout the book. And how I said before that there were like just boring, mundane, not boring, but like mundane things that happened, and they were just written so beautifully. and so
Mm.
flowery. It says clouds gathered in the distance, a blanket over the sun, casting the entire view into a misty gray that looked both mesmerizing and menacing.
Mm.
Um, I've read a book or two where they're just like the clouds were rolling in.
Yeah.
The
She
clouds rolled in from the distance, and this one is like, okay, hold my beer.
the way that she wrote everything, just there was so many things. There was so many things that I just absolutely loved about this. Let me just talk about a moment real quick. There was a moment where they were sitting in class and she's staring off into space and he goes, "Am I boring you, Miss Clem?" And she's like all like caught off guard that he's calling her out, and it just like that moment of tension that she even says that everybody in the room could feel the tension between those two. And it was just like, oh, how she wrote it was just so perfect.
It kind of seemed like there was a perfect balance to just taking that and kind of running with it. It kind of seemed like there was a perfect balance of like leaning into the gothic vein, leaning into the, dramatic romanticism, all of that, but there were also very real reactions to things. So like there were
Mm.
times in the book where Corvina was like, that seems funky, or she would be like in the middle of a weird situation and be like, I'm kind of into this, I know I shouldn't be, this is strange. It
Yeah.
was very like, kind of real, like that situation. She was like, hold on, I'm in the class, there's people around, what's happening right now, I kind of want to, you know jump across this desk, but also got to keep a straight face.
And I love the back and forth with them, especially when other people are in the vicinity. The back and forth is just, you could tell that there was something, but not enough to like make an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
But oh, it was just so good. I'm like, I hate that I keep saying that it was so good, but it just it was done so well.
Yeah. And even on his part too, like there were parts in the book where like, the storm would rage in his eyes. He would be pissed off about something, right? And then she would
Mm,
make a joke and then he'd laugh despite himself.
yeah. They're sitting there having a conversation. I don't even remember what the context was beforehand, but here's the quote. "I'm building my castle brick by brick in the middle of the storm, and I'm wondering if the mountain underneath my feet will crumble." And then she says, "You're my mountain, my Vad. And I don't know how, and I don't understand why, but somehow I'm building my castle on you." I about died. Like, when you have such a hectic life and you're literally just trying to piece together your life after everything that's ever happened, and you're not used to a solid foundation. The fact that someone gives you a solid foundation to build yourself upon just means the world. And the fact that he gave her that foundation to even somewhat build and to get her life in somewhat of a normal semblance was just an incredible thing for someone to do. And yeah, uh yeah,
Yeah, I feel like that would be a mighty thing indeed.
it would be. But there was another one, I don't even have it saved, but there was another part where he was like, I see you, I've always seen you. And
Stop.
oh, that like, dude,
It's literally perfection. I just
it
can't.
I like I had to stop reading. I was like, will you please stop just breaking my heart? Like, you're so cute. I can't handle it.
I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, but like the rose quote,
Uh
the rose. I'll get that tattooed on my forehead. Don't even mess with me. I love that thing so
there was so
much.
much about this I love so much. I'm so glad I forced you to get this.
Me too. We're
Oh.
supposed to be reading a different book next week. You're gonna call me up in the middle of the read. Like, what are you doing? I'm reading Gothikana. Leave me alone.
Are you kidding me? I bought the audiobook too. I'm just gonna listen to it over and over and over.
There's like, okay, so I read a book called Rise the Blood, and I had such a book hangover after it. Like I literally couldn't, because in that one too, it was very much kind of the same vein where it was like an extremely dark MMC. Not just a oh, this is a dark person. It was an extremely dark MMC. It was a very, you know, dark, creepy. And I was so into that one too. It was like those memes where it's like, oh, when you finish a book and that book now becomes your personality for the next 3 months. And then now I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to read any book after this one.
Yeah, I like listen. I have already been recommending this book since like chapter 3 to other people. I'm at work and I'm reading and they're like, "Oh, what are you reading?" I'm like, "Gothikana, read it. Read it. Just go get it. Read it now. Do it. You'll thank me later." I can't wait to see the one lady that asked me what I was reading last week. And she's like, "Oh, is that Whips and Chains?" And I'm like, "No, but it's pretty morally gray." I can't wait to tell her about this one.
What are you reading? I'm reading, madam. I'm having a fever dream. Leave me alone.
When I was asked, "Oh, are you gonna finish that tonight?" I'm like, "I'll finish this in an hour if you let me." I'm just like, let me eat the words.
Yep.
Well, folks, I guess it's time to do our about the author.
So this book is written by RuNyx and it was published by Bramble. RuNyx has an author website, RuNyxWrites.com. And on here, of course, there are the normal things. There are socials, links to the socials. It's a pretty thorough website. There is a section where it goes over all of the books, and I am so upset that I've never heard of RuNyx before because there are so many books. There's the Dark Verse series, there's standalones. Like the Dark Verse series has a lot of books in it. There's like the Predator, the Reaper, the Emperor, the Finisher, the Annihilator, and more. And then obviously Gothikana. And then there's also books that are kind of upcoming that are not like out yet. One of those is a book called Arcana, which I'm really looking forward to that one. That one is, let's see, the thing says a rumored sorceress, a villainous scoundrel, an ancient castle. What could go wrong? A woman in hiding, Lenore Emeran, finds herself at Verenmore. Another Verenmore? Stop. I'm buying it. I'm buying it like right now.
There's no release date yet.
No. No. It's set in 1872.
I love her website. And I love the fact that she has a whole entire section of books that have no tentative release date. And she actually has the writing status on there, whether she's 100% done, 75% done, 10% done. She has it updated on there. That is freaking cool. And I'm telling you, she has some of the coolest freaking covers on all of her books.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm obsessed. I want all of these books, all of them now.
At the end of the book, there's a playlist. It's literally a list of all the songs that, RuNyx would associate with this book or that she listened to when writing the book. And there's a section on the website where it's literally book playlists, like the one for Vad and Corvina. There's like a link. You just click on it, it goes to YouTube. And then there's a fun fact. The first song that I added to this playlist was Run Baby Run by the Rigs. There's like a little fun fact at the end of all of these. Ugh, I'm so in love.
So listen, if we're not following her on every social media possible, we need to now.
Yeah. So there's also a there's also I'm so lame. No, I'm not lame. I'm wonderful. You should all do this too. But I also signed up for the newsletter with our work email. And then also we are following her on Instagram, but
Awesome.
there's a Facebook page that I also signed us up for. So I'm waiting for that to get approved.
Stop. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Ooh, I need all of these books. Like stat.
There's so much going on. Like there's a section on the website where it literally talks about like the frequently asked questions section, and there's so much to it. It has stuff like, like what software do you use to write, and then like how long does it take you to write a book. So like there's even like facts split up between the books. So like there's questions and answers specifically to Gothikana and Arcana, such as Vad and Corvina's zodiac signs.
Oh, that's really cool.
Verenmore is like a character itself. Was that deliberate? I'm obsessed. So I'm gonna do like the biggest deep dive about this author, and I really hope that all of you listening will also do that, because I'm just instant buy. I'm just gonna go through and buy them all now.
Honestly, like there's not a lot of times where I could say that I would for sure 100% never miss a book by an author. This is one of those times. I will not miss another book by this author. I will have all of her books on my shelf very soon. So, yes, definitely, definitely get this book. Go read it. Get all of her books. So, there are trigger warnings. If you have triggers, please do actually check out the triggers.
All right, Jen, do you want to tell everyone what we are going to be reading next week?
Ah, yes. Next week, we are reading My 3-Year-Old is a Barbarian by Erin Frail.
Yay!
So that's going to be an interesting one. It is not a child's book, but it does talk about difficulties that parents do have. So I'm interested to see where this leads. Okay, everybody. We shall see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.